Welcome to That Davis Show. I am Kenneth Davis. Follow me on all social media platforms at That's Davis. Always fortunate enough to be joined by executive producer of That Davis Show, Ryan Bukoveski. Please follow him at Ryan B. Ski and Ryan B. Ski 1 on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you find podcasts, particularly still subscribe on YouTube. We definitely would appreciate that. And today we have an unfortunate topic that we're going to dive into. A little class science experiment gone wrong and Granbury, at the Granbury Middle School. I don't even know where the hell Granbury is located. See, I'm terrible with this.
Anyway, in Texas, we know that.
Oh yeah, it was. You're right. The article did say in Texas. Which I'm not even going to light Texas up for this because this is a terrible situation. Because you're totally right. When I first saw the title and I was like, oh, okay, it's in Texas, or the first paragraph, and it says the Texas Middle School, my first thought was to blast Texas. But then it was like, Kenneth, this could happen maybe anywhere.
Isn't that kind of funny how that's worked out? I feel like if you see Texas and school in one, it's like Florida man. It's just something you have to click on at this point and see what kind of debauchery or craziness or whatever, because you see Florida man in the title, I need to click on this. I need to see what's going on.
That's true. It's unfortunate some of the stuff that they're doing in Texas and in Florida when it comes to children and education and how they're trying to use that against others. All right. This 37-year-old teacher from the Granbury Middle School is conducting a science project. The project had worked on other classmates, but one 12-year student, and the project was that she was taking hand sanitizer, put it on the kid's hands, then lighten it. All right. Well, this one student suffered third-degree burns. All right. And the authorities were, of course, called to campus because the student was burned. I shouldn't laugh at that. The incident, in the news tweet, the teacher resigned and is no longer an employee of the district, and the Granbury PD said the incident is under investigation and will submit to the district attorney's office for review. So this teacher may catch it, but it's Texas though. So depending on, they may get away with it. Anyway.
Was the child a minority? You're safe. Get out of here.
Oh, that's messed up. That's facts.
That's how it's going down the Lone Star.
Fact. So listen, my first thought was, have you ever done anything like this? Because when I was a kid, my dad called me a firebug, right? He's like, you're a firebug, Kenneth. Because I like to play with fire a little bit, right? Like I didn't set homes on fire. You know what I'm saying? I made a put some gasoline down the middle of the alley.
If you were like, let's say you were camping, because I know you weren't, because you weren't strapped back then,
I wasn't camping.
There's no way he was camping.
No pistol,
but if you could just kind of hypothetically put yourself in the camping, when you're like making the campfire, you kind of like are a little too close. You're kind of like putting your hand in there when you could use a tool, because it's like you're kind of playing with fire.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not like listen, I've had a fireplace in my home before, so you don't have to go outside to set a fire, sir.
Okay.
Camper.
Okay.
All right. But that's not real firebug stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay. So I'm trying to find the middle ground between campfire and just arsonist. Where
I'm asking you this question. So you never took rubbing alcohol. All right. Now, first thing, also disclaimer, kids do not do this at home. Full disclaimer, children, my kids, I haven't shown them this. Hopefully, I don't think they can hear me. But for instance, like my grandma was a nurse, right? So I had medical supplies all over the house, right? So I would have alcohol swab, the already prepackaged alcohol swabs or whatever, right? So this was probably the first thing I learned how to do it, right? And when I saw how the swab caught fire, I was like, oh, and I don't know how that went to me. Somebody probably may have showed me. I don't know how that went to me putting alcohol on my fingers and then my hand. Like I could do it. Listen, matter of fact, I could do this is gonna get us in trouble. If we pause, I could do it now. Do you want me to do it now?
I mean, yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'm gonna take a little alcohol and I'm just gonna wrap like this much on my finger. All right. Wait.
All right. Give me the Chris Evans Human Torch vibes right now.
So. Hold on.
Imagine little Ken downstairs with the medical supplies.
All right. So here we go. Wait, it's dripping. I don't want it to drip on something. Get the excess off. So, like that.
Ooh.
Just like that. Nothing. It got a little. It started getting a little hot, but at first you don't really feel it. I'm not going to do it again. That was enough.
Now I'm starting to think the teacher was looking at his phone, getting a text message like, "Can you take the blowtorch off my hand, Professor?"
So yes, that again. See, my thought was, now they said hand sanitizer, right? Now hand sanitizer is a tad bit more gelatinous, so that
Not
like
much
that.
alcohol-y.
You saw, I didn't try it with hand sanitizer because I've never done that before, right? So I wasn't gonna try something new. This was something I did as a child. I knew that I was safe in this experiment because I've done it plenty of times.
I love that.
I wasn't trying it.
I did it as a child. I'm fine.
Yes, I did. If I could do it then, I could do it now. But again, I don't know with the jelly. When you rub hand sanitizer on your hand, it starts to, of course, I guess, melt down, or starts to break down so that it's more watery based than it is gelatin based, right? But still, I would be fearful of something that's a gel because I would think I couldn't get it off my hands. Like all I did was that, and it was gone because basically the alcohol evaporates fast anyway. So that, to me, with that experiment that the teacher was trying, I would have never used hand sanitizer to do it, to be honest with you, because
that's funny.
I think, yeah.
Like I had the medical supply as well. With Dad being the veterinarian, there was just all this medical. I never did any of that arsonist type stuff.
But again, I was a firebug, so I was definitely.
I guess I'm not a firebug. I found out today I'm not a firebug. Great.
I would probably, because I was just thinking wait, I mean, there were lighters in the house, but I was like, I don't remember using a lighter. I think what I would do, I would go get a piece of newspaper or paper from the stove, light it, and then I would do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I would do my whole hand. Okay, I'll be very honest, because of course, coming here, you have to be honest. Since I haven't done that in an extremely long time, I kind of want to do it again.
Kids, come on down. I gotta show you something.
That's one thing. No, I mean, compared to them, and I mean this in a positive way, they're a lot more sheltered than I was. I was out in the streets, hanging about. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like playing with fire, I remember this one time.
Sheltered is good, but it's also not good. It's like anything else. The exposure, not exposure. It's good,
but they don't have to. They're good. They're good. I remember this one time, me and a
you don't need to deal with a firebug. Is what
you don't need to. I definitely don't need to deal with firebugs. Wait. Let me tell you this story. I don't think I brought this story here talking about my kids, right? So last Wednesday, I believe it could have been Tuesday. It was Wednesday. As you know, before we do the show, a lot of times during the week, around 5-something, I'm helping Kelsey with her homework, right? So I'm sitting there. I think me and you may have been doing a show this night. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that was Tuesday.
Okay. So I'm helping Kelsey with her homework, and I think I hear someone at the front door because I'm somewhat not far from the front door. I'm below it, but I'm below it off to the side. So I think I hear somebody at the door. Kenton's washing dishes. I said, Kenton, go and check the door. And the funny thing, we started watching Moon Knight last night. And I had to pause it because I had to ask him, because something bothered me. And I wasn't coming down on him. I was just asking him to understand his perspective. So Kenton says something to me. I can't really hear him. That's on me. And I say, yes. I hear the door open and I hear someone talking, because I don't know if Afton's having something delivered and she hasn't told me. So I hear that and I bolt upstairs, right? Like I'm on the steps, I'm in the kitchen. When I get in the kitchen, Kenton's in the dining room facing me from in the kitchen, and he's mouthing to me like, I don't know who this is. I'm like, what? So I get into the dining room, I bust a right into the living room, and there's like a 50-something-year-old, 6'1" gentleman standing in my living room, right?
Okay.
I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I was here because Harold or Gerald sent me to pick up the fishing equipment. I said, what? Right? I said, who and where? None of that is here. I said, this is 80. I gave my address before I give it out. Yeah, I gave my address, and he was like, oh, I'm 20 houses. I'm 20 houses in the wrong direction.
Oh, I thought this was linked to our old fishing conversation that we had.
No. So he let a whole grown man, right? And so last night we was asking, like, why didn't you talk to him through the door? Why would you unlock the security fence in the first place, right? Like, what? For what reason would you think? And he just was like, he basically felt bad because he's like, man, I messed up, right? Like, that's what he just like, I messed up. But it was, luckily, it was a lesson to be learned. Nothing happened. And it was a lesson for him to really think, like, have critical thinking sometime, because you weren't thinking at that point whatsoever. So anyway, go ahead.
And sometimes with that, you need the exposure, right? He's probably never really had a situation like that. And that's one of those, that's usually how critical thinking starts with people.
Right.
That's, oh shit. I want to do that.
Exactly.
Again.
That's exactly how. He didn't say it, but you can tell it's like, because when I asked him, he was just
shit.
When I asked him last night, he's like, I just don't know. Right? I was like, what was going through? I'm just trying to understand, son, what was happening that you thought to let him in. Like, you never had to. It's like he's not a family member. You don't know him. First of all, find out who and where and what and why before anything. But like, and I was like, you could have opened up the blind and talked to him through the blind. I didn't tell you had to open the door, but again,
invite that man in for a drink first before asking him.
Good one.
Before asking his business, offer him a stay at the Knights Inn.
The Davis Inn. So look, the last part of the unfortunate Firebug experience, nothing bad happened. I had a buddy who lived right on 79th and Chappelle, right? Three houses from where what was this? Super Low, I think used to be the place. It used to be the grocery store at the Super Low's parking lot. Anyway, one day me and him are in the alley, and they had like a real gravelly, it wasn't gravel, but it was like dusty alley. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, it was concrete under there, but it was a lot of dirt first, right? And one day he pulled out some gasoline, right? Now, mind you, I've never had a chance. All right. So for me, this is like, should we do it? No. But we're in the alley, and I'm like, listen, because my first thought, I'm a critical thinker. My first thought is safety. Like, for instance, I didn't show you this. I had this wet paper towel right here in case anything went left, just to put on my finger to stop. If for some reason the new alcohol from 2022 isn't like the 90s alcohol, and I was going here burning alive on this StreamYard, right? I still think like, even though I know I could do it, just in case, be prepared if it goes left, right? So I don't know. I think he may have thought about using the gas first, but I was for it, right? Because I had never had the opportunity.
I like how, real quick, while you are explaining this, part of your critical thinking is like that Seinfeld scene where he gives up sex for a while and becomes like super smart, George Costanza. And Jerry like needs him to come to his like high school or something like that to put on some kind of science experiment because Jerry has like no idea what to do. He's bombing at everything. And then George comes in like a big idiot. And he's just like, I thought you gave up sex. He's Jerry. I had to use logic here. The chances of me having sex with a Filipino maid, I had to take that opportunity.
Exactly, right? So that's it on the head, right? We have a safe place, right? So I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna pour a little bit of this gas. Again, disclaimer: kids, do not do this shit. We're gonna play a little bit. It's funny how I'm gonna say this. Pour a little bit of this gasoline down the crack of this alley's ass. All right, because the alley has when they laid the cement, how they have the crack down the middle for all the water to kind of go down or whatever. I'm like, we're gonna put just a little bit right down that little lane. Therefore, we shouldn't have to worry about it getting on anything else, right? And it's in the middle because I'm like, okay, I think I know how to put this out. So we lay maybe about 4 feet. All right. 4 feet line. About 4 feet. Maybe 3.5. About 4 feet, I think. Looking at how far he was from me, about 4 feet. We light it on fire, and we're sitting there, and the fire starts getting a little higher. Now we start trying to put it out, and he loses his shit. Oh shit! Right? My thought was, all we need to do is really increase suffocating this bitch, and let's kick this fucking dirt up higher, right? So I just start kicking the fuck out of it, right? He follows suit, and we put it out, right? But because the thing is, you can't panic. Even initially, if you panic, get your shit back together and focus and problem solve. Or better yet, don't do the stupid shit that I was doing when I was a child. How about that? For the safety of everyone,
Yeah,
don't do.
I like how you are trying to get on someone's natural reaction to be extremely afraid of fire. Like we've evolved for thousands of years, and you're like, put your shit together. Get that critical thinking going, damn it.
I'm just telling you. I'm full disclosure, my dad, and a lot of times when you're a kid, me and Kenton are having, I won't say we're having an issue, but we're at a crux where he listens, but he's still kind of like, kind of fuck what you got to say. Like he's starting to be a little bit more fuck what you got to say in a way, right? And I'm like, dude,
I'm sure you're loving that.
It's not the time yet, because if you lock in, you can be so great. You know what I'm saying? Like you can just believe me, if you can just focus and lock in or whatever, right? So I understand, but yeah, I was a fire. But the point was, my dad was right a lot of times, and I didn't know my dad was right. Well, in my early 20s, and I realized, it was really stupid that you spent so much time trying to prove he wasn't right about shit when he was right about 98% of the shit he was telling your ass, right? Like you spent a lot of time.
It's funny how that works.
Right. It was like, damn, I wasted a lot of time. I mean, I was right, what, 5 or 6 times? You know what I'm saying? Like when I was clearly but majority of the information from life that he had was right, because shit doesn't necessarily change. You know what I'm saying? Tech changes.
And it's such a cruel coincidence. You always become your parents anyways. So
totally.
It's
totally,
like, why
totally,
are you even fighting?
Right. Totally.
I'm going to show you, even though I'm going to become you.
Yeah, you want to be a better version of them. You know what I'm saying? Being
but you just but you start off, I want to be the exact opposite version, or this new version that's like you wouldn't even be able to tell we're father and son or mother and son, whatever. But then 20 years later, 30 years later, down the line, you're like, oh, I am my mother or my father's son, kind of thing.
Totally. Right. And I'm happy that his child, because he loved me to death, and all he was trying to do was really, really help me. But again, all right, disclaimer, nobody do this shit. All right. I was showing you something that I should probably.
And you're totally normal if you're afraid of fire. Ken is just abnormal in the other way.
You're totally normal if you're afraid. I mean, but like, dude,
handle your shit. Handle your shit.
I'm saying this. I was in the streets. I was not a gangbanger. I grew up out east. So if you know anything about east, you know what gang I was around. Most of my friends, I guess most of my friends were from Inglewood and the Manor. So most of my friends was folks, right? My close friends, and some of them became BDs or whatever. But even though I wasn't in gangs, I was outside a lot. All right. Like I was outside a lot later than a kid. A certain part, like for instance, like when I started hanging with kids my age from like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, like me and maybe one of my partners could stay out to like 11 or whatever, 11:30. But like years before that, like I was hanging out like with older kids like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when I was like 4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, right?
Dang!
Like I'd be hanging. Like sometimes I was neglected because no kid should be out, but they assumed me to be responsible. So I was with my older brother who is 3 years older than me, right? So when he was like, so I guess even when he was in high school, I say my 6th grade year. When he was in high school, it was 6. Look at the 6th grade. I'd be out to then. And then I started to really hang more with my kids my age again or whatever. And, I could still stay out late to a degree or whatever. But like when I was in Inglewood, my mother wasn't checking for me in the middle of the night. Like she wasn't checking for us. You know what I'm saying? So I could be all the way on Halsted somewhere 15 blocks away. You know what I'm saying? Or, we would go travel the city. When we were kids, there was this thing called the super transfer that you got on Sundays. I guess it was a way, of course, to generate revenue because people don't necessarily use mass transit on the weekend, particularly Sunday, unless they're going to church. So the super transfer allowed you to ride the bus all day long. All right. All you have to do is pay for that one transfer and you can ride all over. I think initially you couldn't go back and forth on the same one in a certain amount of time. I could be wrong, right? So we would on Sundays, that meant like we're going to go downtown. We're not telling anybody, right? We're going to get on this Jeffrey bus and we're going to ride our asses all the way downtown. Like we used to just do. And again, even though the murder rate was high in Chicago then, in some ways it was still safer because it was still random, but it wasn't as random, I guess, as it seems. And kids were killed, but it wasn't as prevalent as it seems it is today. Now, again, it could be the way that the stories are narrated or whatever, or it could just be that things are worse today, which it seems
more exposure
like,
to.
Yeah, more is much more exposure. So that's just how it was. So I guess the thing I'm trying to say, I had a large wealth of common sense at a young age, even though I didn't use it because how can you say you had common sense and you lit yourself on fire just for the hell of it?
Well, to be fair, if you're a kid, you just don't use common sense.
Facts. All right. That's it for the show. We'll be back. Also, just a teaser. Speaking of someone being lit on fire, unfortunate to that young man, we got one that's coming up about rejuvenation of skin cells. A lady that was 53, her skin cells were rejuvenated to be 30 years younger to 23. So we're going to dive into that in a future episode. But listen, you know how this goes. Don't do anything crazy before